Hi, and welcome to 10 by 10. Are you looking to buy or sell a house in 2020? If so, we bring you the top 10 topics in 10 weeks. My name's Stuart Rose.
And I'm Kevin Marley. Our first week's topic is financing. So tell me, Stu, why is financing the first thing we consider?
Well, it's really about making the most effective use of your time as the client. So as realtors, we're always happy to speak to people at any point on the home buying journey, and we can certainly make recommendations for mortgage professionals if you need those. But to start seriously looking, you need to be able to define your budget. And one of the first steps with that is understanding from a mortgage professional what you can qualify for. And that then allows us as realtors to start making suggestions maybe about what type of area and what type of house you're going to be able to afford within that budget. So Kevin, are there any things that you need to do before speaking to your mortgage professional?
Yeah, so the banks are going to want to know a couple things. They're going to want to know you have enough funds for a deposit, which is typically a minimum of 5% of the purchase price of your new home. Also, they're going to want to know you have funds to cover closing costs and other expenses that you may have in mind. So it's important to speak to a mortgage professional and tell them what your plans are. If you're planning on moving into a fixer-upper, you need to have funds set aside for the renovations you're going to do after the fact. If you're going to do some renovations to your home before you sell to increase that sale price, you're going to need some funds set aside to do that. Or they might be able to set you up with a line of credit that closes with the sale of the home. That way it doesn't affect your credit history and is part of the transaction. So these are things that it's important to bring to the attention of the mortgage professional when you meet with them. Also, if you have an existing mortgage, they're going to be able to explain to you any fees that may be associated with closing that early or transferring it for a minimal fee. Perhaps if you stay with your current bank, they might even be able to get rid of that fee altogether. So it's important to bring these topics to your mortgage professional when you speak with them. And to that point, who should they meet with? You've got mortgage professionals that work with banks, and you've got independent mortgage brokers. Which one should they choose?
Well, the difference between going through your bank versus going to a mortgage broker is really about the variety of products that those two people have access to. And there are pros and cons to both. A mortgage broker, people automatically think of someone that can get any mortgage on the market. The reality is that most mortgage brokers probably work with between 20 or 30 lenders. But for most people's purposes, they have a really good variety. They're also able to access lenders that may be prepared to bend criteria slightly in exchange for a higher interest rate, so you have more chance of being approved. Your bank representative is only going to recommend products from that one bank, but the flip side of that is they know those products inside out. They know how to work within their own system. They know exactly how to set up your application to have the best chance of being successful. And they know the ways to advise you to go where you get flexibility and you get the benefits that bank can offer. So, which one should you use? My answer is always going to be both. And I wouldn't be shy about letting each other know that you are seeing someone else. It will encourage them to bring their absolute best rates to you. But that way round, you get the maximum amount of choice, you get two different people's perspectives, and hopefully that enables you to get the best possible mortgage for your individual needs. So Kevin, you're at the point where you've decided on which mortgage you're going for. Next step is the pre-approval. How does that work?
Well, a pre-approval is the bank or the lender certifying in writing to you that they are willing to provide a mortgage based on your current credit history at a specified rate, and that rate is normally held for you for 120 days. Now, it's important to know that the bank is locked into you and that rate, but you're not locked into the bank, so you are free to go elsewhere, like you mentioned, and try other lenders to see what rate they're offering. Also, this process is free to you. There's no cost to get a pre-approval, so you're able to go and talk with a lot of different lenders to see what they're all about. Now, as I mentioned, the bank is tied to this rate, but you're not. So if the rates adjust and it's beneficial for you, you'll get the new rate, even though you've got that pre-approval at the older rate. So Stu, are pre-approvals guaranteed?
It's a good question. So there are typically two reasons that a bank may refuse to actually issue a mortgage once they've given you the pre-approval. The first is your circumstances. So they gave you a pre-approval based on your circumstances at the time that you applied for that pre-approval. If something's changed since then, maybe there's been a job change, maybe you've taken out a large loan, something that alters either your income or your outgoings, then the bank is perfectly entitled to reassess with that new information to make sure that you still qualify in their eyes. The second reason is going to be the value of the house that you're buying. If in the bank's opinion there's not enough equity in the house for them to be comfortable that if anything should happen they can get their money back, they may ask you to put down a bigger deposit or they may refuse to lend. Ultimately, if they think you've overpaid for the house, that's fine, but they want to make sure that there's still enough equity there for them to be safe. So Kevin, obviously that's a situation you really don't want to be in. So what can you do to make sure that you don't have credit refused?
Well, Stu, it's very important that to avoid refusal of credit, you don't make any large financial or life decisions, such as changing your employment or making a huge financial purchase. I know a lot of people are excited to buy new furniture for their home, but hold off if at all possible. Now, the other big thing is the bank is going to want to take a look at that home because, as you mentioned, they're going to want to make sure that the equity in that home is a safeguard for them for the loan that they're giving you. So, it's very important you speak with your realtor because they're going to help you price out that home properly. And if you do need to go above it, like you mentioned, you may have to go with an additional down payment. This is all something that your realtor can help advise you on when you're at that point. Now next week, we're talking about the value a realtor brings, speaking of, and
yeah. If you do need any advice or you want recommendations for people to actually talk through mortgages with, please do get in touch. We'll be able to find you the right people. And there are buttons somewhere around the screen.
Down below.
What Kevin said. Thank you, everyone.